This video is about puTTY, which is a telnet client for Windows machines that will allow you to connect your personal Windows machine to a machine that's in the CAP building called student.cs.appstate.edu. All computer science students are given accounts on that machine, and you'll be able to use that machine to run your Java programs. The machine's housed in the CAP building. You will be given an account when you take your first computer science class, and you will keep that same account the entire time that you are in the major. The first time you log on, you'll use your banner ID as your password, and the machine is set up so that it immediately forces you to create a new password that only you will know. If you forget your password, you will have to talk to our system administrator. His name is Daryl Cook, and you see his email address here. He is the one who can reset your password for you if you need him to do that. Let me explain something about olden days. When I first started studying computer science, the machine I used was housed in a large room with people dressed all in white, and the room was kept very cold and very clean. Sitting in another room adjacent to that one was a bunch of what we called terminals. They were dumb machines. All they were was a display and a keyboard. There was no processor inside the terminal. Anything you typed on that keyboard you could see on the screen in front of you, and it would be transmitted to the mainframe, the big computer in the secret room. That's how it felt anyway. And then the command that you typed at the terminal would be run on the mainframe, and the output from that command would be sent back to your terminal. That's the kind of thing we need to do on our personal Windows machine in order to run commands on the student machine. So we need something that acts like a terminal, and that's what puTTY does. puTTY is a little program that will run on your Windows machine, and it will look the way that terminals used to look. It's not a smart program. All it does is transmit whatever you type to the machine it's connected to through the internet. That machine will run the command that you type, produce some sort of output, send the output across the internet back to your machine, and that output will be displayed by puTTY. So here are the steps that happen one more time when you are connected through puTTY to the machine in CAP called Student. You will issue commands to the student machine by typing it in your puTTY window. puTTY will send your command to Student. Student will run the command, produce some sort of output, send that output back to your machine, and puTTY will display it. So now I want to show you how to set puTTY up. We're going to download it. It comes as a small executable. It doesn't have to be installed. It doesn't change anything in your registry. We will then go through the process to set up the connection that you'll need to get to Student, and then we'll configure puTTY, and you can use your own taste to make your terminal whatever color you want it and so forth. So now let's get started. The first thing we'll do is find puTTY. I always use Google. Type puTTY. And the first thing that comes up is this link right here. Click on that, and you see this page. It's not a pretty page, but this is what we need. It's all about puTTY, and we want to click this download link right here. Now if you scroll down a ways, you'll see lots of stuff that looks very confusing. We don't need all that. All we need is this very first thing right here. Click puTTY.exe. I've moved the window so that you can see with me using Chrome, when I download something, I get it here at the bottom of my window. I'm going to drag it out to the desktop. And that is the puTTY program. That's all I need. I don't have to install it or anything. When I double click this, it's just going to start running puTTY. But I want to get it off my desktop, so what I'm going to do, I've already done it. I'm going to show you what I did. Go to my Windows Explorer, and go to the Program Files folder, double click it, and I made myself a new folder here in this window for puTTY. I clicked on New Folder, which is at the top of my window here. New folder, confirm, yes, and then give it a name, and I named it puTTY. So I'm going to delete this one. And I drug my little puTTY executable right into this window. Now because I did it already, it's asking me what to do since there's another one there. So I'm going to just skip this. So here it is in my window. And I want to have a shortcut to this file on my desktop so I don't have to go open up this folder every time I want to run it. And so I'm going to right click it and create a shortcut, and Windows is going to say that it can't put it right there in that folder. Do I want it on the desktop? And I'm going to say yes. So now I have a puTTY shortcut out on my desktop. And here it is down here at the bottom. I'll drag it up where you can see it. It says puTTY shortcut. So I don't need this one now. But I'll leave that to you. You set your machine up the way you like it. You just need to be able to run puTTY conveniently, however you choose to do that. So now let's run puTTY. All you do is double click it, say run, and you get this little window right here. Now I'm going to get rid of the browser window so that you can see the outline of this window better. Now I have already set my puTTY up for connecting to another machine, a machine that the faculty of the computer science department uses called just plain CS. You're going to be using student.cs. So let's go through setting up student. First thing you want to do is type in your host name, student.cs.appstate.edu. Let it stick with port 22, and be sure that you have this radio button selected for Secure Shell. Now before we save this, let's go over here to the left, and I want to show you how to set up the colors that you like and the size of your window and so forth. Let's just click at start at the top. That's what you see for session, and we'll come back to this to save all our work here in just a minute. Most of these will not change a thing on. Logging, we don't change anything at all. Terminal, change nothing. Keyboard, change nothing. Bell, nothing. Features, nothing. Window. When you get to window, I like my window taller than the default window. I leave the width of the window at 80. That means 80 characters can display across one row of your terminal. But I like it to be taller, so I'm going to make my rows around 50. You can tweak this later. Just come back and change that setting and resave it. Now, this lines of scroll back, I like to make, I'm lazy when I type, so I just add another 0 on there. Let me tell you what happens when you're compiling a Java program. Sometimes you get lots of errors, and those displayed error messages will scroll up the terminal window. If you do not have enough lines of scroll back, you cannot scroll back to the very first error message, and you don't want to look at anything but that first error message when you have lots and lots of errors, because typically if you just fix that first one, all the rest of them will go away. At least they'll be greatly reduced. So you want to have a lot of lines of scroll back. Let's keep going. I don't like the default font, so I'm going to go over here and click on change for the font. The one that I like is this fixed sys. You can sort of see here what they're going to look like on the screen. This one is dark and easily read. I just like the regular look of the thing and let it default to size 10. So I'm going to click OK. Behavior, I don't change anything. Translation, I don't change. Not selection. But when I get to colors, I like to play. I want to change my default foreground and my default background. The foreground that's the words that you see in your PuTTY window. I like to make mine white. They start out as a light gray. So I highlight default foreground, click modify, and then click on this white box right here and say OK. Then I click default background, just click it once. It starts out black. I like mine to be prettier. So I click modify, and then I choose a dark color, maybe a dark blue, a purple, a red, a brown, something dark but something not black. I think I'll choose this dark blue color. Then say OK. That's all I change on that screen. And really that's all you need to change. There's one more thing that you might want to change now, although you won't know the reason why. But if you do later, if later you want to use an X terminal, then going to this SSH setting, clicking on X11, and checking this Enable X11 forwarding box may save you some trouble later, and it won't hurt a thing right now. So go ahead and do that. Now, before you say open, go up here to the top, back to session, because we want to save all these settings that we've just changed. And we want to call that by the name student. So into this saved sessions box, type the word student. It's just your little nickname for this machine. And then click save. And it will appear here. Let me show you what happens. And if I cancel at this point and go back and restart PuTTY, say run, my saved student session is right here, and all I'll have to do from now on is just double click that. The first time that you connect to student from a different machine like the one you're using right now, you have to say that that is a safe connection, and so you click yes to this security window. Now I can move this window back where you can see it. It's a little bit too long to appear all in the area that I'm filming on my screen, but it's big enough for our purposes. Now I will log in as my login name, which is DAP. Yours is your ASU login name, last name, first two initials. Right here, I'm going to use my password, and you will not see anything appear on the screen. It will not even look as if I'm typing, but I am. You should type your banner ID right here. When you're finished typing, hit enter. Now, I am logged in and I am finished, but what you will see is the machine forcing you to change your password. So I'm going to pretend by typing the password command that I'm doing the same thing you're doing. You don't have to type password. The machine's going to do this for you. But you will see this kind of changing password message. You are expected to repeat typing your banner ID right here. That's your current password. Type your banner ID one more time, no dashes now, and then press enter. And when you do, it's going to ask you to type your new password. If you type something like, oh, let's say dog, and press enter, it's going to fuss at you and tell you why it's fussing. That one's too short. I'll type monkey. Oh, it's fussing again because that's a dictionary word. If I type 1, 2, 3, it's too short. You have to find a password that satisfies the Linux operating system's requirements for passwords. It's only let me have 3 tries, so I'm going to have to do this again. Type my current password. And then try again, and I don't want to change my password. So I'm going to stop here, but you need to find a password that meets the requirements, and you will have to type it twice, exactly the same, twice. And once you've done that, don't forget it, and use it every time you log on. Now, this password that you are using on the student machine does not have to match the password that you use on your AppleNet account. It can match if you want it to, but it is a different machine, a different password. So just don't think that changing this one changes your AppleNet password or vice versa. To summarize what we've done in this video, we've downloaded and configured a terminal emulator called puTTY. We set up a connection to the student machine using puTTY, and now we need to learn to use some basic Linux commands because that's the operating system that runs on student. We need to learn to use an editor that will enable us to type programs and save them on student. And then we'll learn to use the Java compiler and Java virtual machine to compile and run those programs that we write on student.